Ngoi.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
Yes, I'm well. I thank God.
Amen.
Yes.
You've had a good day?
Yes, it's been a good day, a busy day with court sessions, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that the Lord enabled me to be here today.
Amen.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Today we want to talk about constitutional talk, chapter 4 of this constitution. So, even as we look at this, what would you have us appreciate out of this whole entire chapter? What does it speak to, and what does it tell us as Kenyans?
All right. So I think, first of all, the Bill of Rights, it explains the rights that a citizen of Kenya has.
Okay.
And so it is so important for us as citizens to know what are these rights that we have by the fact that we are just citizens of this nation.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not something that it has to be given by the state. It's inherent.
Oh.
Yeah, it's inherently given by the fact that you're a citizen of this nation.
Okay.
Yes. So I think that's a very important thing to appreciate about the Bill of Rights.
Okay. How vast is this Bill of Rights?
Well, it's quite comprehensive, I will say.
Yeah.
And it's also very vast as compared to the previous constitution.
Yeah.
With the previous constitution, there were so many limitations. And you will sort of see a situation whereby like the president as the king, dictatorial, if I may say. And so now we come in with the 2010 constitution that gives us comprehensive rights as citizens of this nation. And so definitely I would say it's a good read.
It's a good read.
It's a good read. And it's important for you to have knowledge as a citizen of this nation.
When was this expanded Bill of Rights put into place? This new one you're talking about compared to the old one?
The 2010, when we did the referendum on the constitution.
Yeah.
And the people of Kenya decided we want something new.
Yeah.
And so in 2010, that's when now the new constitution, this constitution came in. Okay, it's no longer new, but the new constitution of Kenya came in from 2010. So, and from 2010, that's when now we have been having this constitution of Kenya.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to know that it actually also works backwards. Yeah.
Oh.
So if, for example, there's a right that was violated in 1990, for example, you can still rely on the 2010 constitution in a court of law.
Okay.
Yes. So that's the beauty of this constitution that we have.
Oh.
So if you have a right, for example, in the previous years, way before, this issue of ladies earning property was not there.
It wasn't.
But then now, let's say, for example, you want to, you as a lady, you want to get some property out of your father's estate, for example. And maybe he died way before when that old constitution was there. You still can now go to court and utilize this constitution that provides that there's no discrimination in terms of owning property and inheriting property.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
What else don't we know about this Bill of Rights?
I think there's quite a lot to say about it, but maybe what I can just briefly summarize about this constitution of ours is that it's from Article 19, that is Article 19 of the Constitution, until Article 58.
19 to 58.
From 19 to 58. That's where now we have the 4th chapter of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Okay. And I really love the introduction, honestly, of the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And I think, allow me to say this particular provision. That is Article 19, 3A. It says, the rights and fundamental freedoms in the Bill of Rights belong to each individual and are not granted by the state. I feel like that's such a powerful provision. That means that it is not something that is handed to you because, by the state. It's something that is inherent. When you're born, you start enjoying these rights.
Oh, wow.
So that's something I would say about the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And then also looking at Article 20 of the Constitution, it talks about how it is binding upon all persons and it is binding upon the state.
Yeah.
So that means even for you as an individual, you have to respect and uphold the other person's rights.
Wow, there's your part to play.
Yeah, there's your part to play as well in terms of respecting the other person's rights. Yeah, I think in the current age we are so much into, the government has violated this and that, but you can also as well violate somebody else's right and they can take you to court for the same. Yeah,
I think that's powerful.
Yeah, so it's important to also know that it is a right. The Bill of Rights is binding upon the state and upon all persons. So if you're a citizen of Kenya, even a person who's not a citizen of Kenya, when he comes in here, he has a duty to respect these rights provided for in the Bill of Rights.
So as much as we enjoy those rights that are there, it can't protect us when we break someone else's.
Yes, exactly. Because you see, permit me to talk a bit about the right to demonstrate and to assemble. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a right that is indeed given under the Constitution of Kenya, and so there's actually vast case law that has been provided for that shows that in as much as yes, you have the right to assemble and picket, you do not have the right. It does not extend to you violating the rights of the other person.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that means even as you assemble and picket, for example, you have to respect the other person's right.
Okay.
Be it the right to property, the right to safety of person. That means you can't start robbing the person, another person because you're just demonstrating your right to assemble and picket.
Yes.
So yes, as a citizen of this country, you have an obligation to uphold and to respect the rights of the other persons.
So this explains why sometimes demonstrations can turn chaotic. You have people losing their lives and property.
Yes, that's actually true. And you will find that's when now the courts come in and the government comes in.
Yeah.
Because actually, as per the law of Kenya, there's a Public Order Act. I can maybe advise the audience to go and have a look. It provides that if you go to that extent of violating the other person's right, then the police have a right actually to stop you from it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that is what it involves. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, when you're exercising your right, you have to also appreciate the other person's rights.
Does it also speak to how do we assemble, when, where, and how do we carry out?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So when you look in the Constitution, it's not there. It's just Article 37 that provides that every person has a right to peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities.
Yeah.
But there is a Public Order Act that now comes in that provides for you what you're supposed to do even when you're demonstrating this right. So, for example, you are the person who's organizing to have people come in and assemble and demonstrate. You have to first notify a regulating officer within that area that you want to assemble.
Okay.
You have to notify them 3 days before.
3 days.
3 days before, at least 3 days before, but not more than 14 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not more than 14 days.
More than 14 days, but at least 3 days before the day that you want to assemble and you want to picket. And also now, once you notify that regulating officer and on the day of that assembling and picketing, the person who notified has a duty to maintain public order. So if you're a person who has organized that assembling and picketing, you have a duty to ensure that the people that you have assembled are actually maintaining law and order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So now, of course, this maintaining of law and order, I'd like you to speak a little about the Public Order Act, because it seems like that pretty much defines how people should behave when they are, picketing, for example, or maybe holding these demos. But many times we see maybe on our screens, on social media, that the only way that one can protest is maybe when things are not peaceful. But is that really how it should be?
No, not really. Yeah.
Okay.
It's Article 37 of the Constitution is a right that can be exercised at any given point, as long as you provide due notice, right?
Okay.
And as I had indicated earlier, there is notice that has to be issued to the regulating officer within the vicinity to which you wish to assemble and picket. picket. And so you give him that notice. And in that notice, you need to indicate what are the full names and physical addresses of you as the organizer.
Yeah.
And you also have to indicate the proposed site that you want to assemble and picket.
Yeah.
And so in that notice as well, it has to be indicated the proposed date. When are you? Because like I've said, you can issue the notice 3 days but not later than 14 days within which you want to picket and assemble.
Okay.
So you have to indicate as well what is the date. Yeah. And so also maybe an important thing to note as per the Public Order Act, that the assembling and picketing it has strict timelines. It's between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. So from 6 p.m., it's not permitted. So even you'll note, right, that within the Constitution of Kenya, then now it means it's not our rights are not absolute. So they have limitations. And like I've explained, the right to assemble picket has limitations, and those limitations are indicated within the confines, so far, the confines of the Public Order Act.
All right. So who can do this? Is it the ordinary Kenyan? And who is permitted under the law to maybe do protests?
Anyone who's a Kenyan can do an assembling, can do a picketing. Anyone in Kenya actually can do so, right?
Okay.
So it's anyone really. It does not have any limitations to who can and who cannot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned going to notify someone, an authority, isn't it?
Yes, a regulating officer.
A regulating officer.
Within the vicinity, yeah.
This could be the police?
Yes, it's a regulating. Yes, it's actually the police, the regulating officer within, the person who's regulating that particular vicinity to which that you want to picket and assemble. Yeah, it's within that vicinity. That person is the person that you're supposed to notify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there are times when you'll see perhaps workers raising grievances, but also politicians and their followers.
Yes.
And you said anyone can do this.
Yes.
So even maybe religious people who are disgruntled about something, have a right within that constitutional article to go and demonstrate. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone, even political people in the political space have a right to also assemble and picket.
All right.
Yes.
Kindly speak to the people who are in politics, the so-called political protests. How does this sit with you in terms of the law?
Well, they are Kenyans, and they are also have the benefit of enjoying the rights.
Yes.
So yes, they can actually assemble and picket and demonstrate.
Yeah.
But then now the question is, have they followed the law as we are required to follow the law in terms of maintaining order, in terms of notifying? Yeah, that's when now the question comes in really.
Yeah.
But they do have the right to assemble. And for me, I think, it's okay for them to do so. Yes.
Okay.
But as long as they adhere to the law, it is okay on my end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. It's actually 23 minutes after 3, and you are on the afternoon switch. Truba Kibali, and I'm joined by the advocate of the High Court of Kenya. That's Wambui Njoroge, who is telling us some things there around the Constitution, Chapter 4. Now, Wakili, kindly lead us to the next thing that you wanted to highlight.
All right. So maybe I can first categorize the rights.
Yeah.
There are at least 3 categories of rights. There is the first generational rights, the second generational rights, and also there's for the vulnerable groups. Yeah.
Oh.
So for the first category of the rights, it's more of the civil political, and one of them is the one that I've explained, the right to assemble and picket. That's a civil and political right. The right to life, the right to fair trial. That's also the first category of rights. And the reason why they're distinguished like that is because their level of realization are different. Yeah, realization, I mean, for it to be affected by the state,
Yes.
or for the other people, surrounding that particular person, it's different. Yeah. So, for example, for the first category, that is a civil political rights,
Yes.
it's immediate.
Okay.
The state has an obligation to respect, to uphold those rights immediately.
That's
it's not something that
yeah.
you'll wait. It's something that, we are gonna wait for a bit and all that. No, it's immediate.
Yes.
Right. And the second category, that is progressive. That is economic social rights. So that means, for example, the right to health, the right to food, the right to education, that is more progressive. Yeah. And there are vast case law that have shown that what are some of the measures. It's not just enough for the state to say, we are yet to uphold this economic right because, we are still, there has to be shown that there are steps that the government is taking or the state is taking to ensure that that right is upheld.
Yeah.
Right. And so, for example, the right to sanitation, we had the issue of floods the other day. You have the right to sanitation. You have a right to have the right to health because, with the floods also there's the issue of your health being affected.
Yeah.
So just to note, the government of Kenya it's not obligated to immediately respect or to uphold that right, but it has to show that there are steps that it has undertaken to uphold that particular right, as well as the other category, right? It's something that has to be shown that there is a progressive realization of those particular rights. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So first, there are those the ones that you said come in immediately. What could be an example of that?
Yeah, so the example is the right to life, the right to assemble. So basically political and civil rights. The right not to be, freedom from discrimination, that is immediate.
Okay.
Yeah, the right to participate in a political party, the right to vote as well.
Yes.
Those are civil and political rights that have to be immediately upheld by the state. To note, I think it's so important to talk about the right to vote. People, ensure you've taken your cards. Nico Kadi out there. Make sure you have taken your cards, right? And ensure that you exercise your right to vote. Because particularly as Christians, so it's one thing to say, we are praying for the government, but then you're not doing what you're supposed to do, like what God has told you to do. Like, so far, you're supposed to at least do the right to exercise your right to vote.
Yeah.
Right? And at least then now you have moral grounds or legal grounds to go to God and say, God, this person who we have voted, or this person, I wanted this person to come in, but he's not, but at least I voted.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So it's so important for you as a citizen of this country to take out your cards, your register for yourself to vote. Yeah. And if maybe you wish to change the center to which you want to vote, you can go ahead and do so. Yes.
The question is, what happens when these rights are denied?
Right. So under the Constitution, it provides that people can go to court. Yeah. There's something in legal terms that is called the locus standi.
Okay.
So the locus standi is you as a person who wishes to approach the court. Yeah. You have to have a legal ground as to why you're approaching the court.
Yes.
You cannot, for example, maybe your friend has an issue with property. It does not even belong to you.
Yeah.
And you want to go to court and claim. You can't do it on his behalf. Yeah. So that is the issue of locus standi. So for the legal rights,
yes,
you as a Kenyan citizen, you can approach the court.
Yes.
To ask the court to enforce your rights or to make certain declarations that your rights have been violated.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And that is, you can find that particular segment on the issue of enforcement under Article 22 of the Constitution of Kenya.
Okay. Article 22 of the Constitution of Kenya. So we've looked at how the law applies in terms of what it considers as the inherent rights, and then, of course, the progressives.
Yeah.
Is there any other category?
Yes, the vulnerable groups. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are people who are disabled. Yeah. Maybe even people of refugees.
Okay.
Refugees are also considered a vulnerable group.
Yeah.
Women as well. Yeah, because of the history of them being segregated in the past. Yeah.
Right.
And so that's why you'll find also in terms of issues of parliament, there is a category that is given for women reps. Yeah. So that is the third category.
Yeah.
The vulnerable groups. Yes.
Okay. And from there, what else are we looking at?
Right. So maybe I can talk a bit about the enforcement of the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Under Article 22 of the Constitution. It actually provides that every person has the right to institute court proceedings claiming that a right or fundamental freedom in the Bill of Rights has been denied, violated, or infringed, or is threatened.
Okay.
Actually, for me, it's interesting, that part, threatened.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a must for it to be the actual violation.
But
you know,
even,
there's a threatening, just a bit of threatening, that you have that threat that actually my rights will be violated. You can approach the court.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of these rights, the right to assemble and picket, there's the then member of, he was a then member of parliament, Wambui versus inspector of police. He approached the court on that ground that the Article 37 there's actually a threat that Article 37 might be violated.
Might be
violated. Yeah. And his reasoning was simply that if this right is not, there are no measures provided for in the Constitution or any law, then it's easy for someone to violate that right if there are no legal parameters provided for in law, a code of conduct provided for in law, then that right can be violated. So you see, that's just an example of when you can approach the court when you feel there's a threat, of your right being violated. Very interesting to hear that. We want to keep going. I can also see a couple of you who are sending in your questions. The number is 0717 400 555, SMS line 20933, and we're also live on social media at Hope FM Live, where I see this dear one who says, good show part. Keenly following as Christian hata mimi niko kadi. Latifa Siga, thank you so much for following as well. Sawa, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Don't go far.
Experience the hope, the music, the anointing. This is Hope FM, where you listen and live.
Hope FM, another quality service from Christ.
Did you know the Friends of Hope is an initiative of Hope Media? Through this initiative, we are able to partner with others who are keen to ensure that we keep hope alive. Through your support, we are sharing the hope we have with many others who are yet to embrace hope. You too can become a part of this initiative today. Send your contribution of any amount to M-Pesa paybill number 933933. Account name Friends of Hope. For more information regarding Friends of Hope, please email friendsofhope@hopefm.org or SMS FOH to 20933. Join Friends of Hope today. Friends of Hope, keeping hope alive. Another quality service from Christ is the answer.
And pray, but the flesh want to get a cup of coffee with. But grace has forgiven. Yeah, I'ma stick with God and I made my decision. It's me versus me in the mirror again. Same old battle I've been living. I've been fighting myself. Looking back at that man in the glass, trying to bury on my way to the past. Man, I've been fighting myself. It's a war every time that I pray. That old man trying to pull me away. I've been fighting myself. That old flesh keeps knocking at my door, trying to drag me right back to before. Man, I've been fighting myself. Men don't act like you never had road rage. Yelling with the windows up on the roadway. From the outside, you think you're drinking rosé. Keep following the flesh, it'll lead you to a cold place. Man, I wanna clap back at the haters. Get a black sack and pack it full of razors. Attach a bomb to it, strap it to a trailer, and drive it through their house and watch it flash into a vapor. But I can't. You know I gotta hand it to the maker. I can make a big mess of my life. Big mess of my life. I'm guessing my vessel protests, cause I'ma wrestle my flesh till it die. My flesh till it die. I get a cupcake and a buttered bun. I just wanna stuff my face and get another one. I know I'm overweight, but I just need another ton. I got 16, dog, but I just need another gun. And now I'm typing up a text I shouldn't send. The spirit want me silent, but the flesh you wanna bend. That brother did me dirty, now I'm slandering a friend, and I will show him no mercy now, cause renting is a trend. The spirit want me calm, the spirit want me quiet, the spirit want me patient, but the flesh will want me violent. Jesus, take the wheel, but I won't let you be the pilot. It's It's a battle to be blessed, and my flesh wanna riot. I know you gotta get the last word. Voices in your brain speaking louder than your pastor. Gotta overcome it, we can't let it be our master. Only way to slay is pray and get up in that chapter. So go against the world and keep on marching to the drum. The sanctification in you are starting to become one of God's sons. Hey, you don't stop until it's done. I'm locked in now, cause God already won, man. God already won. It's me versus me in the mirror again. Same old battle I've been living. I've been fighting myself. Looking back at that man in the glass, trying to bury on my way to the past. Man, I've been fighting myself. It's a war every time that I pray. That old man trying to pull me away. I've been fighting myself. That old flesh keeps knocking at my door, trying to drag me right back to before. Man, I've been fighting myself.
So that's Tyson James with a very interesting dilemma there, fighting myself. It's on the afternoon switch with Patroba Kibali. Karibu sana. And just in case you're joining us, this is a conversation that we got started this hour with the Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Wambui Njoroge, as we look at the Constitutional Talk, Chapter 4. And oh my, have we learned? We are continuing to learn a lot about this chapter, vast as it is. So, Wakili, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes. There's somebody who has a question.
Yes.
And they say, hi, Kibali, say hi to our guest in studio. I would like to know, after how long does a non-Kenyan qualify to get a national ID? Okay. All right. Okay, something that we will consider as we go along. Now, High Hope, kindly ask the advocate about the Disability Employment Act. Does the 5% cap for differently abled employees apply to all companies, including private? Okay. Again, something that we'll revert. We'll get back to you on those particular questions. So you got a question? 0717 400 555. And the SMS line is 20933 at Hope FM Live across social media. And remember that Chapter 4 is rolling. All right. Now coming back to you, Wakili, what else can you share with us from that chapter?
All right. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think another right that is important for us to know or discuss about, of course, all of them are important, but I think maybe something also that I can talk a bit about is Article 50 on the right to fair hearing. Right?
Fair
the
hearing.
right to fair hearing.
Interesting.
So as you know, like I talked a bit about you having the right to go to court.
Yeah.
If your right has been violated or there's a threatening that is happening in regards to that particular right. So when you look at Article 50 of the Constitution, talking a bit about the right to fair hearing, it means then now, when now you're in court, what are the rights? What are the rights that you have as a person who's appearing before court?
Yeah.
So the first thing maybe I can talk a bit about is that you have the right to adduce your own evidence.
Okay.
Right? And you have the right to get to see the other evidence that is being provided for by the other party.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going there on your own. There's a party that you are suing in court. Yeah. And most often times in such constitutional cases, we see it's the state.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the state that you're suing.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have the right to get to adduce your evidence and rely on your evidence, and you have the right to see the evidence that they will be relying on. Right? And then also you have a right for that trial to begin and conclude without unreasonable delay. But sadly, maybe just to talk a bit about that, because of our systems, so you might find a case taking much, much longer. Right now, we still have cases that were yet to be dealt with, yet they had begun in the 1990s, 1994s, So, but you have the right for your case to begin and conclude without unreasonable delay.
What causes these delays?
So let's start by first you as the party, before I can even go to court. So you're given time allocation to be able to put in your documentation. You're given time or location for you to even look at the other party's documentation and then put in a response or a rejoinder to your case. Yeah, and so you might find maybe parties are not adhering to the timelines that have been set in court. Yeah, and sometimes as an advocate, sometimes work is a lot. And so you might find you're not able to finish that work within the timelines, because you see, at the end of the day, you don't just want to quickly rush through the documentation that you're relying on in court and then just file it for the sake. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why there can be a delay. Yeah. Secondly, also there are issues to do with the judiciary itself. You might find that as well, they have a lot of work. Judges have a lot of work. Magistrates have a lot of work. Adjudicators have a lot of work. And so you might find maybe they have slated a judgment date for a particular date, but then they come in on that day and say, no, we are not ready. I'm not ready with the judgment, and then gives another date. Yeah. And of course, there is also the issue of administrative issues, such as files getting lost. That you hear that a lot, that you have filed a matter in court, but then now the file apparently has gotten lost, or your records are not being seen. The documents that you wish to rely on are not in the court file, or such things. So you might find as well that can cause a delay. And also other parties coming in, especially with such public interests. For mostly when it comes to constitutional matters, they can oftentimes lead to public interest, public interest litigation. You might find so many bodies want to come in. There's a Kenya Human Rights Commission wants to come in, or you can find other Kyoto Sharia or other bodies want to come in also. And so that, of course, when they come in, they also need to be given time to put in the documentation. And so those are some of the reasons why there can be a delay. In the court system, the court of law. Yes.
Okay. Had you finished talking about the
right to fetch out? No.
Yes.
Yeah. So you also have the right to refuse any evidence. That might be self-incriminating for you. You also have a right to ensure that you are given time to prepare. Maybe you are the one who is being taken to court to having violated somebody else's rights. So you have a right to take time and prepare a defense. To prepare a defense for that particular case. And you also have the right, if, for example, also maybe I can just add, this right is not just for civil cases. There is the civil cases and the criminal cases. For civil cases, that's where mainly it's private individuals. For criminal cases, now that's the state taking you to court because you have committed a crime. Now that's where the crime aspect comes in. So Article 50 of the Constitution also incorporates the issues regarding the rights of accused persons.
The rights of
and
accused.
So if you find yourself in that predicament that you're an accused person, your right involves the right to be informed of a charge with sufficient detail to answer to it. You have a right to remain silent. You do not have to testify. You do not have to speak. Right? You have a right to adduce as well and challenge evidence. You have a right to refuse to give self-incriminating evidence. Right? And so these are some of that right that I've just explained, the right to have your matter quickly dealt with, particularly if, for example, you're an accused person who has been jailed during that period of your trial. That will be actually, the issue of time will really come in as well there. So you have a right to for your matter to be quickly dealt with. Right.
Nice. Very interesting to hear that. There's a question. What happens in a case where a student in university is given a lower grade, has appealed but no hearing, just attempted silencing without correction of error? Are there timelines for legal redress? Can a poor person get justice without charges? If yes, how and where?
All right. Can you kindly repeat the first question?
Yes. What happens in a case where a student in university is given a lower grade, has appealed, but no hearing, just attempted silencing without correction of error? So are there timelines for legal redress?
All right. I believe this is a person who is approaching the internal body, the internal mechanisms, right?
Yes.
Within the university to solve the issue, and the same has not been dealt with there.
Mm.
Yeah. So you, as the aggrieved person, you can always go to court and indicate that your right to fair hearing has been violated because of the issue of delay and the fact that you weren't given an opportunity to adduce your evidence, right? You haven't given an opportunity to be heard. And you'll see in such cases as well, okay, before you approach the courts, there has to be that aspect of dealing with the internal mechanisms.
Yes.
And so if the internal mechanisms have failed, like you've said,
Yeah.
then you do have a right to proceed to court. Yeah, to proceed to court and indicate that your rights have been violated, right? Yeah. And so as per the issue of limitation of time, there is the Limitation of Actions Act. And such a crime, such a conduct can be more of a tortious claim. And so that one it's 3 years. The limitation of time provided for in the act is 3 years. Yeah. So from the day of perpetration to now, moving forward 3 years. So you approach the court and indicate that your right to fair trial has been violated.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. So even as they go to court, they have to show proof that this is something that happened to them for the court to, to ensure that it follows through with their complaints, isn't it?
Yes. And they have to show that aspect of the internal mechanisms have not been the internal mechanisms are not sufficient, or they're violating the rights of that particular individual. Yeah. And so even this right to fair trial, maybe just to add, is not just for the court system, even for the internal mechanisms within an organization, they have a duty to uphold this right to fair trial. Yeah. And such an instant can also be in employment matters, for example. Yeah, before you're fired, you cannot just be fired for the sake of being fired. There has to be the issue of you being heard. The right to fair trial comes in, and so there has to be, of course, first notice to be issued to you by the organization that we are looking to fire you because of maybe gross misconduct, or maybe there's the issue of you coming in late for work, such things. Then after the notice, you have the right to respond to that, and say, no, maybe this is not true, or maybe I was coming late because of this and this issue, try and explain yourself. And of course, then now the employer or the organization has the duty now to revert back to you and say, okay, we have looked at what you have said, but we want to proceed to a disciplinary hearing. And on that disciplinary hearing, now that's when now the rights actually do come in. The right for you to adduce your evidence, the right for you to have a witness. You can have a witness with you there. Yeah. And the right to appeal as well. The right to appeal from the decision that will be made from that disciplinary committee also comes in. Yeah. So maybe just to add that the right to fair trial is not just for court systems, it's for also every other internal mechanism that handles disputes and conflicts within an organization, for example.
Fantastic. Wonderful. The listener would also like to hear your take on the last question. Can someone get justice without charges? Probably pro bono. Is that how?
Oh, pro bono, yeah. Pro bono, yes, of course.
Where?
Yes, there are pro bono services. And maybe as an advocate, I can say, for example, I remember there was I had a case in Garissa, and I was before the judge in chambers with the other party, of course. And the judge asked us to indicate our names as people who would give pro bono services, and we did indicate our names there. So that's actually part of the duty of the judiciary to allocate, or maybe, for example, if you do not know any advocate who will do pro bono services, you can go to the courts, and they have such lists of advocates who are willing to issue or give pro bono services. There's also, of course, the Pro Bono Institute in Kenya. That is also an institute that handles pro bono services.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can approach that institute and say, perhaps I do not have the finances to be able to pay a lawyer, and so, or maybe my situation is dire and all that, and so you go and they can give you. They have a vast network of advocates. I'm also part of the Pro Bono
You're part
Institute.
of it.
Yeah, part
Amazing.
of the. I get emails from them indicating that there's this person. They indicate the case, where the person is instituted and the kind of case. So if you are able to handle it, for example, maybe it's a children's matter or succession matter, you take it up. Yeah. So definitely, yes, you can get pro bono services.
Truly amazing to hear that. Now, as we come back to maybe the conclusion, what would you talk to us about, even as we come to maybe the tail end?
Yes. So I think as Christians, at the end of the day, we have an obligation to know, right? God says, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes.
And so it's so important for you as a Christian to get information regarding this country, the runnings of this nation, the rights that you have as a citizen of this nation, what's happening, the current affairs of this nation, because you also as a Christian, you stand in the gap and pray and intercede, right? Yeah, and so it's so important as a Christian to get to know what are the rights that you have as a citizen of this nation.
The rights.
The rights that you have as a citizen of this nation. And look at the particular laws also surrounding those rights. Because, the rights is not just this. And I've given the example of the Article 37 of the Constitution. It just talks about the right to assemble and to picket and to present petitions. But there are also enabling laws that give further information and further limitations, for example, regarding a particular right. And so before you do something, before you exercise a right, before you go to court, even if maybe you have a lawyer, get to know for yourself. Yeah. What rights do I have?
What rights
can I exercise?
Yes.
What is my neighbor's rights as well, because that's part of loving your neighbor. You need to respect and uphold their rights as well.
That's
lest
right.
they take you to court. Lest they take you to court for violating their rights. And so maybe just to add as well, when you are exercising your right, ensure that you are safeguarding as well the rights of the other person.
That's very important.
It's not absolute. Rights in this constitution are not absolute.
They are not
the
absolute.
Only rights that are absolute are in Article 25. Maybe perhaps I can indicate those rights. The rights that are absolute, cannot be limited, is a freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment, freedom from slavery or servitude, the right to fair trial, the one that I've just discussed, that one cannot be limited, and the right to an order of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus basically is where now you are an accused person. You have a right to be presented in court. Not just accused persons, actually. Any person, you have a right to be presented in court. Maybe there's an allegation against you. Maybe there's a particular crime. You need the right for an order of habeas corpus, right? To be presented in court. Yes.
Just it reminds me of how President Maduro was presented in court in America. I mean, from Venezuela.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes,
so
exactly. You have the right to an order of habeas corpus for you to be presented in court before anything before anything is rendered against you, particularly as an accused person.
As an accused,
you have the right for an order of habeas corpus, and right to life can be limited. As per the Constitution of Kenya.
Of course,
it can be limited.
Okay,
and that's why, of course, there's still that debate of the aspect of you being executed. There's some crimes that were, you can actually be executed if you're not if you perform or you exercise a particular crime or you do a certain crime. Yeah, but that's something also that was presented in court on the issue of whether that issue of execution should still continue,
because also all life is sacred, isn't it?
All life is sacred. But you see, of course, there's that debate as Christians that is God really against murder? No, murder in the sense of you being a criminal and you being executed for the crime.
Oh my.
Yeah, of course, there's that discussion, which of course I won't get into it.
Yeah, it's quite a broad one.
It's quite a broad one.
Yeah.
But I think as important for you is just to simply uphold and respect the other person's rights, and you'll be good.
I see a listener who says, my father had bought a land, but after some years, the sons of that father, dad, had bought the land, denied us the right to own the land. We had planted tea leaves, and through court cases, there is no way even today since the 90s.
Yeah.
So could he be talking about when you said, there were cases that have been there in the 90s and you can,
it still goes back. The Constitution does go back. So you can still go to court and claim.
They can still,
and claim Article 27 being violated. That is the right from freedom from discrimination. So it's so unfortunate. He says that they've been going to court and still it's going on.
Yes, since the 90s.
And what's the verdict? Or he hasn't indicated.
He hasn't indicated this.
Yeah. So definitely the Constitution still works backwards, and so you can still claim that you have a right to property, whether it be a daughter, it be a son, woman, man. You have a right to own property. You have a right to inherit property.
Yeah.
And so if maybe people come in and say, you in our culture, as we do not give ladies property, you can still go to court and say no. This is a violation of my right. Of my freedom from discrimination.
Wow.
Yeah.
A good place to leave it. I am truly, truly grateful that you found time to be here, Wakili. Of course, it's been amazing to just hear from you and the wisdom that you have been able to share with us. So may God bless you.
Thank you so much.
All right. It's now